First time I ever met Steve Jobs was when I was interviewing for the software evangelist job. It was kind of a drive-by meeting. It's not like I spent an hour of him walking around the parking lot, becoming BFFs. But I'll tell you a very funny Steve Jobs story about me. So I was hired by a guy named Mike Boych. He was the first software evangelist. So there was like Jesus, then Mike Boych, 2,000-year gap. And the reason why he hired me is that we were best friends in college. And so it was completely, unequivocally, 110% nepotism. It had nothing to do with my academic background because I majored in psychology because that was the easiest major I could find. My career path was primarily working in a jewelry manufacturer. So besides the fact that I had no relevant work experience or educational background, I was hired. And so after I was interviewed by Steve in this very brief encounter, Mike Boych goes up to Steve and says, "So what do you think of Guy?" And Steve said to Mike, "Well, I like him, but I'll tell you something. If he screws up, I'm going to fire you too." So that was my ringing endorsement and onboarding process. The first computer that I ever used was an Apple I, and it was a friend's computer. Although back then with a cassette tape and stuff, you really couldn't do anything. So the first computer that I actually used was an Apple II. And that removed the scales from my eyes because back then, in college, you either typed or you hired a typist and you use correctable paper, or you use the IBM Selectric with the ball that lifted off with the tape. And to go from that to a computer where you backspace, change everything, press a button, and it spits out perfect text, that was a religious experience for me. It was an application that combined spreadsheet, database, and word processor for the Apple II. God, what the hell was the name of it? I think it was Apple Works. Apple Works was the first integrated app that had spreadsheet, database, and word processing all in one, as opposed to 3 standalone applications. Wow, it depends on the first time I ever went online. It depends on how you define going online, because working at Apple, they had an internal email system called Apple Link. So Apple Link it was like the precursor to Slack, maybe. And it was a great internal email system. And you also could go to places and download files and stuff. If it wasn't for Apple Link, I may not have successfully courted my wife, but that's another story. The first sort of public system.
I was going to say, let's not align over that. So you were able to court your wife because of Apple Link?
Yes, we should have named our kids Apple and Link, but so she was in the Seattle office of Apple, and I was in the Cupertino office of Apple. And back then, you were hot shit if you had a fax machine. But because we both work for Apple, we were part of the Apple Link messaging system. So we could communicate very easily and very often and for free. And sitting in Cupertino, let's just say that I ensured that she was one of the first people in the field to get Apple Link.
That's the first version of Match.com or something like that.
Oh, wait, but there's one more. I got to add to this answer. I think the first social public use that anybody could use that I had was CompuServe. I loved CompuServe. 76703, 3031. I can remember my
I was
CompuServe
going to ask
account
you that
number.
because people think of having a handle or a screen name. CompuServe only gave you digits. How many digits was it? It was like 8 or something like that. Yeah.
Those were the days. That CompuServe with their bulletin board system. I swear it's better than bulletin board systems today. First car was a baby blue Toyota Corolla stick. And
What year?
God, this is 74 maybe. And
Wow.
it was a stick and I loved it. And there are times I wish I could go back and buy another stick Toyota Corolla. I have such nostalgia attached to a Toyota Corolla. And I remember, I think it was about $3,000. And the way I got the money was that my father had gone to Las Vegas and was very successful shooting crap. So he gave me the money. It was in Hawaii, and it literally could have been a Japanese movie. There were Japanese movie theaters, and they showed samurai movies with subtitles. And I love those. This was like Toshio Mifune and, Akira Kurosawa, those kind of things.
Seventh
Yeah.
Samurai, yeah, Hidden Fortress, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And there's a big, Ronin theme, but there's also the blind swordsman, Zatoichi, the blind swordsman. The item that I have the most nostalgia for, I love it in my heart, is my first Apple IIci. That was a magical computer. It was, it wasn't the vertical footprint. It was more like a box and the box. And I don't know why. It just that it was the first computer that was finally getting fast enough. And it was open. You could open it up. You could do stuff with it inside. And uh if I could get that 2CI back in the Toyota Corolla, I would be a happy man.